Well, the Green Bay Packers had the type of year in 2012 that a lot of teams would love to have. They won their division, they won a playoff game, but for a team that went 15-1 in 2011 and won the Super Bowl in 2010, I think 11-5 and elimination in the divisional round of the playoffs qualifies as a little bit of a disappointment. Now, the good news is, with just a little bit of roster tweaking, they can be right back to contending for championships next season because their quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, one of the finest quarterbacks in the game, who's in the midst of his prime. Rodgers had another great year in 2012. His receiving core is going to look a lot different next year, though. Donald Driver, the longtime Packers receiver, has retired already. Greg Jennings, who's been Rodgers' number one wide receiver really ever since he's been in Green Bay. Jennings did miss a lot of time this last season with injury, but Jennings is slated to be a free agent, and he's not expected to return to Green Bay. Jennings actually publicly announced that he will not be playing in Green Bay next year. The organization has yet to comment. But with no Donald Driver, no Greg Jennings, and possibly no Jermichael Finley, the tight end slated to make over $8 million this coming season, remains to be seen whether Ted Thompson deems him worth $8 million. So we might see some serious changes to this Green Bay receiving core. Next year, it might just be Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, and James Jones. Now, that sounds a lot like the Green Bay Packer receiving core that we just saw in 2012 because Greg Jennings, as we said, missed so much time with injury. And quite frankly, the Packers' passing game and their offense in general took a big step back in 2012. Now, they were playing at such a high level in 2010, 2011. It's not like, they took a significant step back, but they were still 13th in the NFL in total offense, 5th in points scored at 27 per game, though that stat is padded a little bit because they totaled nearly 90 points in their last two games. They were not a top 10 scoring offense throughout most of the season. But keep in mind, even at 27 points per game, even at 5th in the league in points scored, considering that in 2011 they were first in points scored, right around 35 per game, and I believe they were first or second in 2010. Not sure about that, but I know they led the league in scoring in 2011. You look at this offense this past year, and you say, well, what's the problem? And they're still better than a lot of offenses out there, obviously, but they didn't seem to be able to attack defenses vertically as much, and a lot of people chalk that up to Greg Jennings being absent for most of the year. But again, Jennings is most likely going to be gone now. So will the Packers try to add a receiver either via the draft or free agency? Remains to be seen, but their receiving core, as we said, is going to look a lot different. Now, what are they going to do at running back? Their running game suffered this year. That's another reason people thought maybe the passing game wasn't as effective as it was in 2010, 2011, because defenses didn't have to really respect the running game when they played the Packers. 5 different running backs started for the Packers this past season. Cedric Benson was supposed to be their number one guy, but he went down with injury in Week 5. By the end of the year, they were utilizing a guy in DeJuan Harris who spent most of the season on the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. Now, Harris played pretty well, but that'll just give you an idea what injuries did to the running back position in Green Bay this year, and it showed. As we said, the offense wasn't near as good in 2012 as they were in 2010 or 2011. The good news for Packers fans is the defense was good, much better than they were in 2011 when they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL statistically. This last season, they finished 11th in the league in total defense, also 11th in points allowed. Now, it is a little disturbing, or has to be disturbing to Packers fans, that they did melt down in the divisional game against San Francisco. They allowed 45 points to the San Francisco 49ers. They let Colin Kaepernick, 49ers quarterback, set an all-time NFL record for rushing yards by a quarterback in any game. Kaepernick rushed for 181 yards. So, hey, if you're a Green Bay fan, I'm sure you're optimistic that the defense improved so much this year, but has to concern you that in the playoffs, they looked as bad as ever, in the divisional game anyway. The defense did play well in their wild card win over the Minnesota Vikings. But in terms of where the Packers go from here, we mentioned the wide receiver and running back positions. Look for them to do something there in the offseason. Also, defensive line. We've heard that this upcoming draft is rich in defensive linemen, and the Packers are aging on the defensive line. They had trouble stopping the run in a few games this year, so wouldn't be surprised to see them add some young defensive linemen. Ted Thompson, no doubt, will tinker with this roster some in the offseason, but if past history is any indication, Green Bay Packer fans are in good hands with Thompson. I expect the Packers to contend next year and for years to come.